This is a show about facing fear, unlocking courage, and taking action.
Courage isn't necessarily a daunting thing.
It's going to give you more purpose. It's going to give you more drive.
It feels like making a courageous decision is going to get you closer to who you aspire to be.
It's knowledge plus faith plus action equals courage.
If my kids ate a carrot and I saw that it improved their health, I'm not going to then only feed them carrots from that point on. And yet we have CMOs that do this type of tactic all the time. You know, they see like, okay, if I just scale that and only do that, I can showcase better ROI. But you really have to be balanced, just like you'd want to eat a balanced diet.
Choices. I mean, I think this episode is all about choices. And there have been times in my career or life where you just think things are moving too fast and you forget you have choices. Or you just assume, well, that's what you're supposed to do, right? Like you go to college and then you get a job and then you try to get a promotion and then you stay a while and then maybe you should move. But for you, it seems like my guest today, Nick Tran. I mean, first of all, great to see you. You're about 6,000 miles away from where I am right now. Ish. I'm sure you've done the math.
I have not done the math. I can't tell you how far I am from where that is, but I can say it's like a 12-hour flight, 13-hour flight from where you are, maybe.
Yeah, ish. Right. And so, first of all, I think when you seem to make really smart choices.
Oh,
when you track the decisions that you made outside of maybe the Lakers. No, I'm kidding. Like that's not even fair. Like I'm wearing a Padres hat. So what I probably should have asked you is, are you a Dodger fan? Because right now being a Laker fan, it's a good choice with Luka there. Let's just call that.
Yeah.
But are you a Dodger fan?
I mean, I am. I'm a SoCal native, lived in LA a good chunk of my life. So anything in that realm helps. And I'll be honest, like being of Asian American heritage, it doesn't hurt to have Shohei and a few other like Japanese exports come in to help the Dodgers and give you another reason to like that team. So yes, I would say I'm a Dodgers fan as well.
Yeah, I'd say the Dodgers are making really good choices in terms of being a global baseball powerhouse. But before we jump into getting back on choices, podium eyes, I know Lakers is your gold medal, I'm assuming. Yes?
You mean in terms of like what
Teams.
matters most in my life? Yeah. As the team, that is the team that I care about the most. And it's been a thing that I've been growing up with. I went to Magic Johnson camp in 7th and 8th grade. I went to Byron Scott camp in 4th grade. I grew up in that environment. I was a huge Kobe fan, obviously, through thick and thin. It's the one team that I've always been a fan of.
Who's silver? Dodgers?
Maybe. I'd say like everything else is silver. So whether it's Dodgers, Rams, Galaxy, like doesn't matter. Everything else is just like a step behind. So I would say like Laker fan through and through. Everything else is casual at best.
Well, nowadays it must be a little harder to catch the Lakers play live because somewhere over the pond, as they say, is where you live. Are you in London or somewhere else over there?
No, I'm in London. So in central London, I've lived here for the last 2.5 years. And though it's hard to catch games live, there's an endless amount of highlights that'll pop up in my social media feed. So I still get to see Luka with his crazy dimes. I get to see Luka with his crazy shots. And it's still a fun way to stay close to what's happening in Lakerland.
I mean, if I'm not careful, we're going to rabbit hole into highlight culture, right? I mean, It's kind of a nice segue into your world, right? I mean, you've seen this up close, your days at TikTok and whatnot.
Yeah.
But what a ride, man. I mean, when you look back, and you're in the middle of it, although I know you've made a very conscious choice right now to be a dad. And by the way, let me also give you a little cap tip here because you actually list that on your LinkedIn, which I think is cool. Like you're like, yes, you're an entrepreneurial CMO, but you're a dad. And when we talked last, I felt like a lot of the decisions you made was to put the focus on being a dad. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, beyond fair. I'd say not only is it fair, it's what's driven me over the last few years. I think being in an environment where I put my work and my career ahead of everything helped me realize when I had all that taken away, how fleeting it is to sort of quote unquote be on top in the marketing realm or be on top in whatever career you're in, and take a step back and understand that the moments you have with your children when they're young are so fleeting that if you have the opportunity to prioritize that, even for a season in your life, it's going to be not only an amazing thing for you, but also such a great impact for your kids and for your family. So that has been the priority over the last couple of years for sure.
We'll call it 2 seasons. You've been 2 seasons as All American. Oh, we can't even say All American dad now because you're over in the UK. Two
Yeah.
seasons as a dad. So how's your second year been as a dad? Like what's a day like for you?
It's been great. I think the first year was almost this transition into the kids thinking that it was almost like a extended vacation, and then kind of getting into the period of like normalcy where they start to see me as being more of a constant and integrated into their everyday lives, whether it's, drop off, pick up, or doing all the meals, and also just being present to be able to play with them without checking my phone endlessly has been like a real treat. I can see just so much, joy and excitement that they have at like experiencing things with me and, our family, as opposed to it being me when I had the opportunity. So just being a consistent fixture in their everyday lives has really been fun. At the same time, I still want to be, mindful that I have to, take on some projects, but at least at this stage, I can move the projects and the timing of those things around their schedules so where, I'm able to show up for they call them fixtures out here, but like basically like their sports matches, and I can take part in sports day and, avoid pulling a hamstring when I'm trying to race other dads in like the 50-meter dash and whatever it is. So just doing all that stuff has been like a real treat.
How old are the kids?
They are now 6 and 8. So we moved here when they were 4 and 6, and just the amount of growth that both kids have had between, 4 to 6, and then from 6 to 8 is mind blowing. So it just reminds me even more like how small this window is where they're young and they are listening to me and they love having me around and they always want to play. And, I want to take advantage of this as much as I can because I know it's not going to, be forever.
Man, I'm like built with guilt. And like I know I'm in it right now. So like my schedule, it's like if daddy's not traveling, right, there's kind of a problem. But even this morning I was on the Peloton watching an episode of Wrexham, just a little not captive to you.
Yeah.
And I could sense myself recognizing that the time is tiptoeing closer to kids are going to go to school.
Yeah.
And I felt guilty that I wasn't even sitting having breakfast with them. I was like in another room in the garage, which is where our little fancy gym is. Yeah. And I was like, I need to like, and I felt that. I felt like I could feel like the sands of the hourglass moving, and these moments. I didn't get off the Peloton, by the way, but I should have. But do you feel like when you like look at all this, how reflective are you? Like, are you a journaler? Are you like, do you look at this moment in time and like, are you documenting it anywhere?
Not in like a formal sense. I think in today's age, with everyone having a built-in camera on their phone, you have this opportunity to take moments and capture them. I try not to like create content or pictures of things, but what I like is that, throughout the travel adventures that we've had and moments that they've had in school, there's a timeline, literally on my phone of all those moments that I've captured, whether it's a short little video or whether it's like a picture. And being able to look at that is really fun because, there are some Saturday mornings when my kids are just waking up and they'll pile into the bed and I'll literally just pull up pictures from when we first moved to London and just show them, one, how little they looked, but then two, how many experiences have happened since that, moment 2.5 years ago. And even seeing them reflect, what were their favorite trips? What were their favorite countries that they visited? What are some things that they've learned since being in here? And sort of like the, initial, moving to London and what they were feeling and, having that conversation with them and having them tell me like how easy it was and how they're really excited to see where we might go next. those are all things that, instead of journaling, like we'll have these conversations that I find equally useful.
Probably best school on planet Earth, right? Like go see it for yourself, go experience it for yourself. Obviously, you're seeing the world a little bit literally through their eyes, but you're also seeing it through yours. Like since you've been there, the collection of experiences, can you share a little bit of like, oh man, I never thought in a million years I'd go see X, or wow, that's interesting. Like you said, fixtures. They call it fixtures here. Like, give me a couple of those little observational moments for you.
Yeah, honestly, it's really cool having young kids because what I'm trying to also think about is what's going to create one of those core memory moments for them. Because, sometimes you travel, you go on these trips, and you don't realize that a lot of that just tends to like blur. Try to think about what is that one thing that they will remember. My kids, were able to go to Finland in, I want to say like early December, and it was just cold enough. They got their first snow there. We were able to visit this like small town, and we had 3 days where we just were able to go out and experience the Northern Lights. And you basically sit in a sauna, get all warm, and then as soon as you're ready, you like go outside and you just stare at the stars, and then you wait to see some like magic unfold. And we were lucky enough to see the Northern Lights literally come out and just do this full on dance, and the kids were just blown away. And being able to have that opportunity to see nature at its finest was definitely a core memory. Like they still talk about that as one of the elements. On the flip side, we've also been able to travel with their friends to different parts of the world. So whether it was Falsterbo in Sweden or Cyprus with a group of 5 different families and including all of their friends, it creates these memories that I think will hopefully last, and remind them that the world isn't as big and scary as you think it is, and that if you take the opportunity to learn from other cultures and experience new things, there's so much that the world has to offer, and it's just a matter of experiencing it as much as you can.
In some ways, I'm hoping that the world sees Nick, not just Nick Tran. Like it's like, how do you humanize? Because when you read you read your LinkedIn profile, like it's pretty impressive. And that's, there's you, and then there's the stuff you've done, right? Like 2024 Forbes, entrepreneurial CMO, 2021 Adweek brand genius. Not a small word, by the way. 2021 Forbes most influential CMO. Like very, very cool things. And then, but like, you're just a dad. You're just doing the best you can,
My dream job is to go back to teach. And as much as it's nice to rattle off some of those, accolades that you mentioned, the stat that I keep in the back of my mind that really propels me is the number of people that have worked on my team that has become, or have become CMOs in their own right. And right now that number is 7. My goal is to continue to see that number climb. And I'd rather see another person that I've worked with become a CMO than, get another list, let's say. And down the road, I hope to take that lesson and bring it into the classroom and formally teach a class in an MBA program, and hopefully see a new crop of marketers enter the field with like this determination to be innovative, do things that have never been done, and drive real change in an industry that hasn't changed that much. So, as I think about what being a dad is, it's really about teaching, 2 individuals in my case, how to be the best humans they can possibly be. And so from a career perspective, it's more like, how do I teach a generation of marketers to be the best marketers they can be? And if I can, make that my legacy, it would be a life well lived.
Let's say that I was on your team and you're like, hey, Ryan, day one. Okay, here are the 3 things I'm looking for from you, or places where you can learn. All right, let's say all of us are on Nick's team, or we're in the class, and you had to like summarize what it takes to be a great CMO.
Yeah.
What's your 1, 2, 3? It could be 1, by the way, if you just want to stick with 1. But
Yeah, I like that you're thinking in 3s, that those tend to be more memorable. I would say the first one is you have to transition your mindset from being the individual that drives, the ideas and the innovation and all these other things, to being the person that's inspiring a team to be that change, because your job as a CMO is different from being a director or a manager, in the sense that in those roles, you're still executing. And as the person responsible for execution, you're asked to deliver those big ideas and bring them to life and do those things. And we sometimes tend to attribute success with being the person with the idea or the person that's delivering the campaign or the project. And you almost forget that as the CMO, your job is now to inspire 10 of those folks to do their best work and bring together some of the most innovative campaigns that they'll ever do in their careers. And if you can string a few of those together, then your job as a CMO is like really, brought to life and put to the test. So that's step one. It's like changing your mindset from being the one that's doing the work and being the best at that aspect and inspiring a bunch of people to do their best work. I think the second thing is this idea that I've been playing with, which I call you have to unlearn marketing. I don't think that people who are great at marketing in a pre-TikTok age will continue to succeed if they just do the same thing. That's not to say they can't evolve and still win, because I see a lot of people that are doing that. But like, I genuinely believe that as the media landscape has radically changed and the way that content is distributed across these platforms like TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and all these other things, as that's becoming a bigger part of people's behaviors, if you're not then changing your approach to marketing to them, there's no way to win. So you have to find people that are willing to take risks, think a little bit outside of the box, but at least start with this strategic principle that what worked in a pre-TikTok world will unlikely work in a post-TikTok world. So that's probably step two. And then step three is just building the culture that we all want to thrive in, and ensuring that the leaders of tomorrow, so the CMOs that you're mentioning, or people that are on my team who want to become CMOs, recognize that, it's one thing to have a great product, it's another thing to have great marketing, but if you can really build a culture that makes people feel safe, feel inspired, and feel that they're learning, you will have, a really great team that you can then build around and build with. Those are probably the three things that I would try to guide a future CMO into how to think and shape their circumstances to win in today's world.
A lot of the work we find ourselves in, and this is, first of all, I should say, that's not easy to do, rattling off the three, because it's not like I gave you the questions. So I appreciate you knocking those out. But like the third one specifically, the amount of times that I've now found, I mean, look, the higher up an org you get, I think the more lonely many people feel. Yeah. And for right or wrong, when you also lose your team, it gets even more lonely. And there's times when we do lose our teams. But the idea of coming in and trying to make people feel safe so they could be courageous is not like 90% of the time it's that. It's like, do you feel comfortable enough? Is there a net? Even if there isn't, does it feel like there's a net where, yes, you have permission to do the best work of your life here? Like, my favorite shirt that I wear sometimes when I'm keynoting is mistake it till you make it. Like, I'm not a fake it till you make it guy. It's like, mistake it till you make it. Now, maybe don't make the same mistake multiple times, but like, do you feel safe to go out and do that? Is that the environment you're talking about?
To a degree, but safety kind of comes in two forms. I don't think it's just like, hey, there's a safety net and everyone here is perfectly well fit to be here. I think there's also this give and take where when you're leading a large organization, you have to also recognize that you're there to make this organization stronger and build up this brand and win, how you define winning. In some cases, some of the folks that are on the team may be better suited to go elsewhere. And in that case, part of the safety isn't necessarily to guarantee that everyone is fine and no matter what you do is like going to be, glossed over regardless of the issues. It's really more so to say, in respect to driving this, I'm also going to be purposeful in helping the individuals win. And if it means that it's better suited for you to win elsewhere and that you have a better chance to succeed and further your career elsewhere, I will help you in that regard and guide you in that aspect as well. So the safety isn't necessarily just like job security. It's also that you're looking out for me as a human, and whether or not it's here or somewhere else, you're a resource that I could rely on to be a sounding board for my career growth and my aspirations. And ultimately, we all want to learn and grow. And if in some cases you're not in the right place, I think it's up to the CMO or to any leader to be able to be transparent and tell them, like, it's not working here, but like I see that there's potential for you to be able to take your strengths and do that elsewhere. And if you need help and support in doing that, like, I'm also here for that. I think that's a big part of it too.
Well, there's a transparency to it. I was gonna say your Lakers is showing. I mean, like, the winning component still matters, right? Like, is this a team that can win together, right? Can we talk about winning? You know, your number two answer on learn marketing. I love the power of a good you know, like,
Yeah.
there's something to the So walk me through how you landed there and how you take it to heart.
Yeah, that one was a little bit more obvious for me because I genuinely thought, almost to the point of like overconfidence or slight arrogance, that I had the playbook for brands to win. It was something that I had to learn when I was at Taco Bell, when we had this, crisis with the brand, and we had to pivot and rebuild this brand and do all this stuff. And I was playing a role on the social digital side in that regard, but I got to learn from some of the best in the business on how to build a new brand and how to like win back customers and how to build back trust and do all these things. So then when I was sort of like brought to other crises, whether it was Samsung and its phone catching on fires, or Hulu being acquired by Disney, or TikTok having an executive order to be banned in the US, like all these moments made me think about the lessons I learned earlier on in marketing and branding and apply those to where I was like, okay, I have the playbook dialed, and it doesn't matter what industry it is, this playbook will help a brand win. And then I get to TikTok. I'm sitting at the helm of the marketing team, and I'm like looking at what TikTok is building and how it's changing consumer behavior. And immediately it was just like, oh my gosh, if I do what I did before, I don't think it's going to work now. And it was almost rewiring my approach. So I used to tell the team at TikTok, we have to take the playbook that I thought I had and just literally flip it upside down. And if we flip it upside down, we have a better shot at winning. And it was a lot of trial and error and try to see like what works, what doesn't work. How do we build that brand? How do we scale? How do we age up? How do we retain these users? It was through those lessons that it was like, okay, I think I now have a handle of how it's working. I need to tell friends who are, CMOs or CEOs of other brands how to do this so that they can then win. And sure enough, we see that starting to, work. And then it was this moment of realization where, okay, it's not just coincidence that the brands that are taking on the same approach that I was doing, at TikTok are now starting to really win and like gain market share from people that I thought would never be able to fail. It's becoming more of like a formula for success in this new era. And that's when I started really thinking about how to distill those principles into a format that's easily digested. So I started doing these projects with these companies, and then that became like, I need to write this book and help more people unlearn marketing to win in today's world.
All right, so this is the book.
That will be the book. Whether that's the title, I have no idea. But it's just this idea that, the old way of building out campaigns and planning and getting the media and doing all things are not going to be the ways that these brands truly win. It's going to be through, thinking about a social first engine that really thinks about how to create content for specific cohorts, more directly, and then bringing in some of like the influencer and the PR machine to really drive that engine overall, and then use that as a new approach to then level up into campaigns and all those things, rather than building a campaign and then cascading all that down. It'll literally be flipped. And then the other nuance is, how do you then do that in near real time? So, at TikTok, we were able to take a typical campaign that would take 8 to 10 weeks and truncate that down into a 3-day to 5-day cycle. If brands aren't moving at that speed, which I used to dub, marketing at the speed of culture, it'll be very tough to win in today's environment, because that thing that was relevant, like Duo is dead, the Duolingo owl. And then all of a sudden, like, guess what? Duo's back. Like, if somebody were to spend 8 weeks to build a campaign to like jump on this whole initiative, the whole thing would be like, this owl was resurrected before someone could even put together the plan to do what they would have done in the past. Whereas now you see brands immediately engaging, doing stuff, and now like, balancing that out. Now, I don't think reactive marketing is the only approach. I think there's a lot more thoughtfulness that could be done into building out your own brand. And there's only moments that, are opportunities that could be fun. But at the end of the day, it's really about trying to be relevant to this audience that has their attention scattered across so many different elements. And they spend a lot of that time on social. So you really have to win in organic social first and foremost in order to win in marketing overall.
Do you feel like, it sounds like it's a playbook, right? That this unlearned marketing or whatever the book's going to be called is a playbook. But are you like, should it be written in invisible ink? You're like, how long is the playbook? The playbook till you need a new playbook to replace the playbook.
That's really funny, and I might steal that and have the shelf life of the words in there be also fleeting. That's hysterical, actually. But we'll see, because like there will be a point in time where this approach is going to need to evolve. You have new things like AI continuously changing the game and evolving things more rapidly than before. So there will be a time where this won't be the playbook anymore. And I'm very cognizant of that. But for the time being, this could be one of the playbooks. And I think that if brands can transition from the previous approach to this approach, they'll be one step closer to whatever this new approach will be, rather than being stuck in the way that things were done in the past.
Yeah, I should probably have figured out an NBA metaphor for this next thing, but it's an NFL. Like, you've seen a bunch of these coaches, coaches who take a year off, they take 2 years off from the largest game, and they just study. Like Sean Payton comes to mind, right? Yeah. Like just sort of studied and was like, okay, what of my playbook is outdated, or what needs to come in the way the game is changing, or what do I think can actually work in the way the game is now moving? So here you are, right? We've agreed you're thousands and thousands of miles away, but you're studying. I want to honor the fact that you're trying to stay a dad, but like, I'm sure you're looking at what's working or what's not working, like on top of everything else. Is there like one thing that you've seen that you're like, oh, I'm going to keep watching this. This is interesting. It could be a tool, a tactic, an idea. Is there anything that you're seeing right now that you're like, everyone needs to pay more attention to this?
Yeah, I'll give an example of one. Performance marketing, right? Super buzzy. Everyone put all their eggs in that basket. Budgets were basically shifted to be predominantly performance driven. The analogy I used to share with, friends and colleagues is that, if my kids ate a carrot and I saw that it improved their health a bit, I'm not going to then only feed them carrots from that point on. Like, that would just be completely idiotic of me. And yet we have CMOs that do this type of tactic all the time, where they see, a return on investment from one specific tactic, and it's marginal maybe, but they see like, okay, if I just scale that and only do that, I can showcase better ROI. There's never going to be one thing that will help a company truly win. It's always going to end up becoming a balanced approach. Now, there might be moments where the company might rely on certain tactics more than others, but you really have to be balanced, just like you'd want to eat a balanced diet, let's say. So thinking about that, I think the pendulum has swung so much towards performance marketing that we're going to see a lot of companies test and experiment two things. One, things that are like slightly more brand driven, which is like the natural pendulum swinging back, which I think is normal and great. But I think you're going to also see people start to innovate on how performance marketing can be done even better. And that's where I find a lot of interesting things happening. There's a company called Claim, as an example. They've been able to like basically guarantee, the CPA costs to be better than what people are currently getting now. Their approach is really like Gen Z forward, and it's really like targeting Gen Z into becoming like trial users and engaged users of a new product that they haven't tried for a while. Those types of tactics, I think, are incredibly smart, innovative, and fit for a very specific audience, in this case, like a younger audience. So as companies think about, and when I say companies, I don't mean brands, I mean like the companies that are like making these things better, as they find tools or features or things that are going to like be improvements that are more targeted for a younger generation than what's been done in the past, like, that we're used to. That to me is going to be another really interesting space to keep an eye on and to be mindful of.
Spell claim just so I know I have it the right way?
CLAIM.
Oh, couldn't be easier. It couldn't be any. That's what it's called. Okay.
And I'll give you some quick background. Like, it's an app, and college students can download this app. And every Thursday they get a drop, and the drop will be 3 different brands that will give them an offer. But the brand isn't giving them the offer. The Claim app is giving them an offer where if they haven't been a user of that place, so let's say like they don't go to this one restaurant, the data will show that they haven't been there for the last year. So if they want to claim that specific offer, they'll get a rebate from Claim to go try that thing out. So when they go to the actual restaurant, the user experience is very like natural. They go in, they buy the item. There's no coupon, there's no offer, there's no dilution of like the brand itself. They're literally just like paying for it on their credit card. As soon as they make that, claim, they'll get a Venmo for whatever the rebate is from Claim directly, and it'll build up in their like Venmo account. So to them, they're paying full price for whatever it is that they're going to. They've selected and opted in for that, so the claim rate is much higher. And then the company's only paying for the people that actually like make those claims, which then lowers their cost per acquisition significantly. So to me, like, those are really smart ways to like win Gen Z in a way that doesn't feel like, oh, here's a coupon or here's like a discount or an offer. Like, I think this is a really interesting way to make them feel like they're getting the full value, but then they're also getting incentivized on the side to go try something out that they've opted in to go try out. So again, just one example. There's plenty of others that I think are going to start to innovate the space and make performance marketing more fun than it has been.
Oh yeah, please. Where I thought you were going was also just the conversation about brand.
Oh yeah,
There's a whole.
Though. Yeah, there's a whole conversation there. There's going to be a pendulum swing back. People are going to invest more in brand. The sad thing is, like, brand always kind of has this moment where it's the hottest thing, and then it's not the hottest thing, it's the hottest thing. So that's expected. I think I like to play in places that are slightly unexpected. And as much as I'm a brand person, I believe in that. I also find really interesting things coming out from like the data side of things and the performance side of things, because as long as those things are innovated and improved upon, I think they become valuable channels and tools for us to continue to leverage as CMOs. We'll always lean back on brand when the appropriate time allows us to.
I mean, you're a student yourself, right? Like, where do you still go to study? Like, what do you like? Give me some of your rituals. Like, where are you digging these days?
Yeah, I think part of the studying comes from, being an avid angel investor in brands and things. I think learning as I'm, helping and seeing startup brands try to do it themselves is incredibly valuable for me as a student of things. An example, like, I was an early investor in Liquid Death, and it was part of their seed A, B, D, and ultimately help them with some marketing elements. And I think, being on that journey has taught me a ton, because the team there is incredible. They are very creative. They've broken through and done things that most brands wouldn't have dreamed about doing. And the lessons that I've been able to like learn from just being on the sidelines as they've, seen this growth have been invaluable for me in my career. Other brands that I've invested in, whether it's Olipop or Away Travel or Therabody, or a host of other brands. Each of those provide valuable lessons for me as well. And, having a little bit of skin in the game helps me also like be more mindful of the lessons I'm learning and how I might be able to like suggest things to them. On the flip side, there are a ton of amazing marketers and, thought leaders in the space that drop gems on LinkedIn all the time. So I feel like LinkedIn is a really good place to learn things. I try to share things that I find interesting or things that I find worth, taking a deeper dive into. And I don't think of, LinkedIn for me to be, here's me standing on like, my pedestal telling you what you should think about. Sometimes I'll throw something out there that I might not fully believe in, because I want to see the discussions that ensue and like what happens in the comments, and, to hear people push back and say like, I actually don't think that. I think this other thing. Like, I think, that helps me learn a lot too, to get different perspectives from others and to get a sense of, how, the industry thinks about various things. And at the end of the day, like, I love learning from younger folks, because in the same way that one of my earlier managers, a gentleman named Brian Nickel, who's now the CEO of Starbucks, he was our CMO at Taco Bell before he became CEO of Taco Bell. he had this sort of like reverse mentoring session where once a month I was able to come into the executive leadership team and just share what was happening in the world of social media. And at the time, it was a really good experience for me just to be able to get in front of, such amazing individuals and executives and share things that I've learned, but it also taught them a bit about what was happening in culture and happening in the world of social, which mattered to the brand. And I find that like having your pulse on culture requires you to have a pulse on, the youth. And I'm not at the age where I'm, up to date on all the things, but being able to learn from the folks that are living it day to day and seeing how they, go through their experiences, whether it's like streaming content, music, social, real life experiences, and just hearing more from them about what makes them move and what makes them excited is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, basically fire the adults. Just like at this point, fire the adult.
No, that is actually not acceptable. I believe there are laws that restrict you from doing exactly that. But more so like bolster your workforce with the folks that are just tapped into culture in a way that you wouldn't have expected, and then letting them do their thing. Like if I didn't have leaders like Tressie Lieberman or Brian Nickel or other folks enable me to just like run with what I was doing at a very early stage in my career, I wouldn't have been able to contribute as much to the company, but also not learn as much as I was able to. So I take it as my responsibility to make sure that I pave that path for future leaders who have that potential. Obviously, I'm not going to let everyone just run wild, but if there's someone that you just see like, what, they have that potential and they have that it factor that lets them see the world and culture a little bit differently, and they can leverage that into the world of marketing, I'm definitely a proponent to like let them run with it more than you otherwise would.
I mean, to me, your unlearned marketing, it's just that. It's like creating the forums to like, please help me shape what's coming now or next. What do you, if anything, what do you miss about your last life? Is there anything from like the TikTok world that you're like, you know what? The one thing that was epic about that was X, Y, or Z.
Oh, there's a lot actually. The time that I had at TikTok and even at Hulu as it transitioned into Disney were probably some of the most exciting and fun times of my career. So at some point I want to go back to doing something in that realm, but being able to lead large teams just gave me more exposure to talent, especially like talent across the globe. Some of the folks at TikTok were some of the best, marketers that I've had the chance to work with. And some of them were based in the UK, some of them were based in, UAE, some of them were based in Brazil, and some of them were based in the US, like Southeast Asia, like you name it. Like I was able to work with some of the best marketers around the world and really see what like an A team looks like. I also felt like at the time, maybe I don't know how it is now, but at the time, there was this real spirit of like innovation and driving new ideas, at TikTok. So, going to a place that has that element would be very exciting. And it's something that I really miss. Having the scale to impact so many people at a place like TikTok, where you're reaching, billion plus people every day on the app. You're able to like really move culture and drive behavioral changes. Like, TikTok made me buy it becoming a huge thing, and like book talk becoming a huge thing, and clean talk becoming a huge thing. Like that stuff was, incredibly fun and exciting, even down to like the cooking hacks that people were able to develop and like the new recipes that were all developed on the app. So like moving culture, I loved. Driving change with large organizations, I loved. Having the ability to like bring new ideas to life, I loved. And ultimately seeing a lot of people grow and end up, becoming CMOs in their own right, also something that I really love. So those are things that I miss. I also, genuinely miss the opportunity to just be around so many people of different, like, diverse backgrounds. That was something that I hope to get back into one day.
I mean, I can see, do you feel isolated over there?
I wouldn't say isolated. I have projects that allow me to like interact with a lot of different people, which is, helpful. It's different when you're, working on projects, which I feel makes you, seem more like a free agent, to use your sports analogies. Like I can drop in, do a 10-day contract and like, be like a good two-way guard or whatever it might be. And then you get hopefully like a longer extension at another team. But like, being able to just like dedicate, a few years towards a brand, I think would be something I'm looking forward to down the road again. As of right now, like I really just want to like finish the book and get more case studies, under my belt. And this is an easy way to do it at scale. So I'm like very content doing this now. But there is this longing to go back and be part of like a team that I could help build and, help achieve success that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to do.
Yeah. So in the spirit of the podcast, right? It's the Courageous Podcast. And so we always talk about the relationship of fear with courage. You really can't get to courage without addressing the fear, but a lot of us, we bury it, we suppress it, we don't want to talk about it. You're kind of in this really cool spot right now. It seems like a very reflective spot, and you've got your projects, like you said, and you get to be a dad. But is there, like, is there something right now that you're like, I'm a little terrified to do X, or is there a place where you feel you need more courage?
It, like for me right now, I'd say it's a lot of little things, and I can share which things that might not seem obvious at first. But 3 or 4 months ago is when I started getting back on LinkedIn, and the reason I'd been off of it for so long is because I was afraid of like what people would think, and would the ideas resonate, and would people care, and do I want to be seen as type of marketer that's just like posting stuff about myself. And it kind of hit me. You don't have to be posting about yourself and your work all the time, especially at a time in my life where I'm not, making a bunch of work. But I love highlighting amazing work from others. I love, being able to have a discussion around some of these things that I'm seeing, and giving shout outs to folks that are doing, incredible campaigns. And, as much as I was reluctant to do it, I kind of just forced myself to do it. And it's been an amazing experience. So that's like small aspect of something that like I was normally, a little bit worried about. Another one is just doing podcasts. Like I had avoided doing them for a long time. I even think you might have reached out to me years ago, and I just kind of said like, no, I'm not really into that. And over the last few months, I've tried to say yes to doing more podcasts and kind of get out of my quote unquote comfort zone, and being confident and comfortable in talking about my life, my work, things that I find interesting about marketing. And as I do them more and more, it becomes like courage is built over time. So, being, consistent about stepping out of your comfort zone, I think is like great to do. I even have a group of friends that I've had since Taco Bell days. We have this text thread, and we actually, for the first time this year, shared our actual like goals that we wanted to accomplish this year. And we like wrote them out in our text group and said, hey, we don't normally do this, but let's just like list out 3 things that we want to accomplish this year, and like hold each other accountable for those things. And they weren't necessarily career oriented. They were more like life plus some career stuff. Having a group of individuals that will propel you forward and do things that you find hard, or do things that you're, not too confident in, or that you're kind of afraid of. I think that is step one, is like, having that support system, and recognizing that life is a team sport. And in order to like get through the difficult things and the things that you're afraid of, you can have a team that's with you to help you be courageous, even though you might not want to be. That's been a big secret to my success.
How many on the text chain?
There's 6 of us total.
Of course, a starting 5 and a guy coming off the bench, or a girl coming off the bench.
Yeah,
classic.
It's classic, but it's the same group that I've been on this text chain with since I was a associate, actually since I was an intern, I think, at Taco Bell. So it's a group that I grew up with. It's in the space with. It's a group that we text regularly, almost daily, and it's definitely a group that has seen the ups and the downs in my career, and I've seen the same in theirs. And you have a bond with people that you've had a shared experience with. So yeah, this text chain is definitely like a text chain for life situation.
So this is going to be clunkier than I want, but you sparked a lot in the last share. So forgive me. I mean, I'm glad I came back and asked you again to come on the show. because I've learned so much from you already just from this encounter. I mean, it's very obvious for me to see how curious you are, how thoughtful you are, how intentional you are. I mean, we're kind of full circle back to choices, like the choices that you make. The choices to stay on that text chain is pretty cool, but just the way that you study the world gives me ammunition to keep studying the world and who I surround myself with. I mean, I joked about firing the adults, HR don't get me in trouble, but I do agree with you that like you've got to put yourself in a position to stay close to culture, and who better to do that with people that are up and coming that have disposable time. And so I've learned a lot from you already from today, outside of the funny sports metaphors and whatnot. The concept of putting yourself in a position to unlearn and constantly audit yourself. You gave multiple examples of that, not just with the book you're working on, but even like your decision to go back on LinkedIn is another checkpoint on, am I learning or am I unlearning? Am I learning? Am I unlearning? Right? Which is it's a very cool feedback loop that you've created. And again, I'm sure sometimes you're putting other people's thoughts out, but then to hear you testing, the little nudges on LinkedIn is another great piece of advice for all of us. And then the last thing I'll share. So when we talk about courage, and we've been studying this, or I guess my team and I have been studying this for 7 years now on a regular basis. We break it out into 3 levers: that there's knowledge, there's faith, and there's action, and you need each of the levers. So without, let's say it's knowledge and faith with no action, a lot of the brands you never thought would get past, right? That's paralysis. Knowledge and faith, no action is paralysis. Faith and action without knowledge is a reckless move. And knowledge and action without faith, if you're numb on the inside, you're working on status quo. You're working on safe. Mm-hmm. Another thing that we've recently come to, and you'll see why I'm kind of like bringing this back. Well, when we get brought in, knowledge sometimes is bringing outside perspective. Faith is the inspo. But the action piece, we find that we've been brought in on the accountability side. Mm-hmm. And it's like, who's holding the team accountable? Who do you trust to hold you accountable to doing the things that you said you would do? And we're so terrified of both doing it and then it just fading away. So it's really cool to hear that you kind of have this accountability group. And I think this is the missing piece. Like, we all have dreams of doing big things. It's who's going to hold your hand, be a champion, be by your side, and hold you accountable. Not in like, ruler to the knuckles, but like root for you and be your thought partner. And it sounds like you've created that, which is so very cool to see.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate in my career and life. I have that group. I have my childhood friends that have been, part of that journey as well. I've also had folks that were never folks that I worked with, but we have shared experiences because we were in the same field, and they are now some of my closest friends. And they've, gone on to do things like start their own business or like become CMOs at other places. And I also have like a group of mentors that are individuals that, for whatever reason, have just taken a strong, liking to me and have helped guide me through my career with nothing to ask for in return. And having these like various pockets of folks that I could always rely on. I also have this group, Henry Crown Fellowship, which is something that I was a part of. We have this, class that we call Super Glue because we immediately bonded, is sort of like why we call it that. I have so many folks that support me as an individual and me in my career that it makes me more confident to like go out there and be courageous, because there's this, group of individuals that are like literally propping me up in order to do that, whether it's again in my life or in my career. And I think it's important for people to just recognize that the more of those pillars that you have to support you, the less likely you're able to fall very far. Like, you'll always have moments where you slip and you have a little bit of a step back, but like when you have that kind of a support system, like, yes, your family, yes, your close, immediate circle, but like if you have that strength in numbers that are really propping you up, it makes it very difficult to fall too far when you do fall. And that's been one of the like keys to my growth and success throughout the years, is just relying on those folks to be there. But at the same time, me also switching the roles and propping them up when the time is needed. So like I feel very passionate about everybody having their team and like living life as a team sport and not as an individual sport.
Well, appreciate you giving us an hour this morning.
Of course.
I'm surprised we didn't get into Premier League. I know you've got no favorites there.
No,
Keep it
too controversial.
Why? Give me more there. Just got to keep it even.
No, football in the UK isn't like a fandom or like a cult like we have with teams in America. It is literally religion. And it's religion that's been passed down generation to generation. And once you commit to a team, you are like, that is your team, and people see you differently, and it just changes the whole like dynamic of the relationship, the conversation. So whenever somebody, which happens every day, asks me like, "Oh, have you selected your team yet?" I immediately say like, "No, it's only been a couple years. I'm still, going to different matches and trying to figure out which." And they go, "Okay, like, but once you make that decision, like, make sure to let me know." It's like it's just too controversial from that standpoint that I'm just like, you know what? I'd rather just stay a fan of the sport overall and not commit to any one team. Whereas like with the Lakers, there's no getting out of that. Like that's what I'm always going to be.
I mean, well, that's religion too, but that's another show.
It's not like it's not quite religion. It's so different. Like if you just go to a Premier League match, like it is such more of like a religious experience to the way like they have chants that like they just know, and it's almost like hymns that you'd have like at an actual church, and like as a bystander, it is incredible to see unfold. We don't have that exact same vibe at sporting events in the US. Like it's just not the same. Even if you're a diehard Steelers fan or a diehard whatever fan, Packers fan, it is nothing like if you're a diehard Liverpool or Arsenal or Chelsea or Man U fan. Like that's like a different animal, which I love to see, but I just didn't grow up with that, so I don't have that same conviction.
All right, last question. This is purely curiosity for me.
Okay.
Because you're and I'm staying in soccer, by the way.
Okay.
So obviously you're close to Wrexham. You've done plenty of work with these guys. When you study the UK on Wrexham, because I'm sure you're also testing there, are they like on America? What are you doing? Eye roll, or are they like bravo? This science project of Wrexham it's great for the sport. It's keep going. Like, what's their take on it?
I mean, I don't know their take, but my take on what they've been able to do is transformative, not only from a, our opportunity perspective, but the good that they've done to bring real energy to the community is next level. I mean, I'll give you an actual example. I went with the team there to the match against Birmingham, which is Tom Brady's team out in the UK at Wrexham. And the First Minister of Wales met us there, and to see her talk about the impact that Ryan and Rob and Ricky and team have brought to like the Wales community, like the actual country, is profound in my mind. Like I think that they've done so much good beyond just like the world of sport, but actually like driving growth and intrigue and interest and even like tourism to that community, that the impact will be felt for years, right? And I think as you start to see that success and you see folks like Tom Brady now investing into his, team and other folks that are considering this type of thing, just the energy that it's bringing to leagues below, English Premier League is actually just good for the sport overall. And I think that could be emulated across different sports as well. And again, it's never going to be a bad thing to just have things that not only impact the actual sport, but the community at large. So I find it to be such a great case study, but also a testament to their willingness to like really attempt to do this in a big way and continue to see the payoff, unfold.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly a brilliant idea, and everybody seems to be winning unless maybe like you said, it's picking up all the leagues. So even if you're on the other sideline.
Yeah. I mean, you're getting more viewership, you're getting fans to your base as well. You're getting, a deeper dive into the stories of the players and the individuals. And even as players get traded and move around, people will still likely at least now know who they are and where they're going. I don't think it should be taken lightly, the impact that like Wrexham AFC has on like, Wales. And I think it's so interesting to see how that could be applied to other teams, other leagues, other sports, and then try to drive that kind of like momentum for a community.
Nick, appreciate you, man.
Of course.
If you find yourself in a pub, I'm not saying you're spending a lot of time. I would like to know, like, what is the Liverpool fans' take on Wrexham? If you could report back, I'm just curious, like, do they see it as, oh, how could it not be great for the sport? Or like you said, it's kind of a newer religion that's happening that people are like, oh, I'm in on that hymn. I want that religion. Anyway, awesome stuff. We do miss you over here. Stay in touch.
I will.
And, go Lakers, man.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Courageous Podcast. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts so more people can find us. See you again next week.